All right, what is up? What is happening? Happy opening day, both in real life and in this game. Of course, this is opening day 2022 in episode 7 of our Out of the Park Baseball 22 Rockies series. I've simmed up to the start of the 2022 season, so just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get on with the start of the season. If you go here to front offices, someone had commented that because we have so much money available to us, we should up the scouting and development budgets, and we did just that. I actually did that after I finished recording, so that was a surprise for this episode. We have upped the scouting budget to 18 million, the development budget to 20 million, and we still have 37 million available for free agents, 60 million for extensions. The ticket price is going to start at 30, and we can bump it up if we need to. The other thing that I wanted to do before we start the season is go over the prospects. Someone asked for me to do that, and that was on the agenda. So we're going to start with that. So we'll start with who our top prospects were in 2021. We're going to have Lucas Gilbreth start the season in AAA. I really don't think this guy's ever going to be a contributor for us at the major league level, but that's where he's going to start, is AAA. We do have Austin Gomber. We're going to keep him in AAA for right now. I want him to kind of get his legs back under him. I want to see him pitch well in AAA before I bring him back up to the Major League roster. So that's where he's going to start. Tony Losi, we are going to bump up to AA to start the season. We no longer have Chris McMahon. We no longer have Helcris Olivares. We no longer have Sam Weatherly. We no longer have Ryan Rollison. Jake Summers is going to be starting the season in AA at 24 years old. We're bumping Drew Romo up to AA this season. He did pretty well last year at rookie ball and at single A, so he's going to be at AA to start this season. Maybe we'll see him in September. I don't know. We no longer have Elahiris Montero. Michael Toglia is going to be starting the season at AA. We have Colton Welker at the major league level. Julio Carreras retired, which that was a little upsetting. I thought that he could have maybe done something for us at some point. He did well at single A last year and at rookie ball, but I guess we'll never know. He retired at 22. Mateo Gil, we bumped him up to high A. I'd like to see him do well at that level of competition before we move him up to double A. He is only 21 years old, so I think that's fine. No longer have Aaron Schunk. Ryan Valade, of course, is our starting third baseman. Adiel Amador, we're going to keep at the Arizona League because he is only 18 years old. I'd like to see him perform a little better. We no longer have Brenton Doyle. And Zach Veen is going to be starting the season at AA. Another guy maybe we see in September, but for right now, he did very well at high A last year, so we're going to bump him up to AA to start 2022. Then in terms of the guys we got in the draft that we're really worried about, Brandon Birdsell, we are going to start the season at AA. He is 22 years old. Brandon Clark, we are going to keep him at Rookie League. I would like to see him perform a little better before we bump him up to one of the other leagues, probably Fresno. Speaking of Fresno, that is Daniel Dewey is going to be starting his season. He looked pretty solid in the Arizona League last season, so he's going to start at Fresno this season. Jack Leftwich is going to be starting the season at AA Hartford, where he finished a season ago. Jack Leiter will also be with Jack Leftwich as well, so two Jacks in the starting rotation. Joseph Califoot will be at High A Cal, the Cal League. You can see that he will be with Spokane. He was okay. He was pretty solid last year at Fresno, so we're going to just bump him up to Spokane, make sure he does all right, and then we can bump him up to AA. Brandon Smith will be at A-ball. I'm still pretty confident long-term in his abilities, so I'm excited to see what he can do. So Brandon Smith. Tony Bullard will be with Fresno at A-ball. Brian Lariga, because he is only 19 years old, I'm keeping him with the Arizona League Rockies, and we can bump him up later if need be. And then Cooper Davis will be at Fresno A-ball, and that is that. So that was an overview of the prospects we care about. I still get this question. I kind of manually worry about my top prospects, the guys that I get high in the draft, and I let the AI handle the other prospects within the system. If some prospect really good comes out of that, that's great. If not, that's fine. But that is that. So before we get into the start of the season, let's take a look at the preseason predictions. And your Colorado Rockies are slated to be an 83-79 team. I think that's probably a little optimistic. I'm not expecting to go over 500, but still, that's kind of cool to see. We're projected to score 820 runs, which I have to imagine would be close to the top in baseball. So the Yankees are projected to score 820, the Astros are projected to score 829, and the Dodgers are projected to score 827. So that puts us, fourth in the league in runs scored, which would be pretty solid. A 273 average, 196 home runs. Not a lot of stolen bases, which is okay. We're projected to only have 819 runs against, a 4.72 team ERA, which would be a lot better than a season ago. We don't have any of the top 10 pitchers, nor do we have any of the top 10 hitters, but once again, that's okay. So looking at the rest of the projected standings, the AL West seems like it'll be a pretty good battle between the Astros and the Angels. The White Sox are projected to win by 4 games over the Twins in the AL Central. The Yankees shouldn't have any issues in the AL East, according to this. And then in the National League, the Braves might get some trouble from the Mets, but overall it seems like they should win that division pretty easily. NL Central, once again, does not look very enticing. And then the Padres are projected to win 104 games to lead the league, with the Dodgers finishing in second place at 97 and 65. So let's see if that happens. Let's see if someone can knock the Dodgers off. So that is that. Just as a recap for our lineup, we're going to go into the season with Tapia leading off, followed by Edman, Welker, Gallo, Blackmon, Zunino, Gregorius, Valade, and Bader. And then the pitching staff, Corbin Burns, Sonny Gray, Lance McCullers, Dane Dunning, and Yency Almonte to start the season. And then in the bullpen, we got Jordan Hicks, Scott Oberg, Drew Rasmussen, Jairo Diaz, Tommy Doyle, Jacob Barnes, Justin Topa, and Ben Bowden. And that is how your 2022 Rockies are looking. The Denver media, in their season previews, certainly had a lot to say about our 2021 offseason, so let's go through that real quick. Pretty good offseason. Pitching is so hard to acquire and develop in Colorado. Gallo should hopefully win a Silver Slugger. I hope so. Smart additions. The rotation should easily be better. Hope Sir Didi rakes. You and me both, especially in real life. Love the signings. Team is looking up. On paper, the team almost seems like a contender. Gallo might go ahead and send 60 over the wall and right. Excited for the season. 70 wins seems very doable. I agree. I said I'd like to play around 500 ball, but we won 53 games a season ago. Even a 20-win jump would be massive. So if we could just get to 70 wins, I would consider this season a success. Good offseason, smart avoiding the Syndergaard contract. I saw that a couple times, so I'm glad that other people kind of felt the same way that I did. It did not seem worth it for us at this point in I guess you could call it a rebuild. Should be an interesting season. Looking great, a much better squad, 70 to 80 wins. That's probably the range that I'm trying to get into. Leaves flexibility for a couple bigger acquisitions in 2023 and push for a playoff spot. That's the idea. Should be a better team, maybe even 400s. Not sure if 500 is possible. Yeah, I agree with that. It's rare for a team to, make a massive jump, especially if that team before won 53 games to finally suddenly get to 500 or above. That would be a 30 game improvement, which is pretty tough to pull off. So if we could just get into that 400 winning percentage area, I think I'd be pretty content. Definitely agree on avoiding that Thor contract. Not sure I would even do the one he signed with the Yankees. I hate player opt-outs after 2 years. That's a good point. You only have one lefty in your pitching staff. That's a good point as well. That is something that going into the season I'm not super concerned with, but eventually that is something that we're going to have to address, especially because none of our late-inning bullpen arms are lefties. We don't have any lefties in the starting rotation. I'd like to have at least one. So eventually that's something I'm going to look to address. As I said, in a vacuum going into a season, I'm not totally against going with all these righties, but we will need some lefties at some point. I don't know via trade. I don't know if that's something we'll just wait until next season for, but we're going to definitely get some lefties at some point or another. So with all that being said, oh, by the way, I did want to answer another question. Somebody asked, will you manage the games? I will. Once the way that it works, if you're new around here, I'll manage the games if we get to the playoffs, and then I'll just go game by game, fully managing, taking care of all the decisions and stuff like that. During the regular season, I just like to kind of sim through. I think it works better for a YouTube series. That's just me personally. I know other people do things differently, which is cool. We're all different. But I'm excited. I am very excited to see how many home runs Joey Gallo hits in cores. As I said last episode, if he doesn't hit at least 50, I'm going to be a little disappointed. I mean, he hit 40 last year and he played for Texas, so I'd like to think we can bump that up a little bit. The strikeouts are going to be an issue. I accept that, but we'll worry about the good. We'll take the good with the bad. That's what I'm trying to say. So with that being said, let's start ahead. Let's simulate. I'll catch y'all again at the start of May, 1 month in, to see how the team's looking. Hopefully we're doing pretty well. And that is that. By the way, here's the top 100 prospect list. So Brandon Clark has fallen out of the top 10, but here is your top 10 prospects. Take a pause if you'd like to see who's on it. And the owner private message, personal message, I should say. Welcome to the new season. I hope that the offseason has treated you well. This is also a reminder that you should at least try to stay close to an even record. I think that's fair. By the way, I also got a couple of questions in the last episode. Said that Turner retired. People were like, was that Trey? Was that Justin? That was Justin Turner. So Justin Turner has retired. He's no longer a major league player. I think that is everything that I wanted to go through before we start. I mean, we could take a look one more time at the farm system rankings. And we are still 6th with Clark, Leiter. So Clark fell out of the top 10, but he's still number 12. And then Leiter 16th, Romo's 48th, Veen's 49th, and Valade is 96th. So Valade's going to lose his prospect status eventually. But yeah, so that is good. So everything is looking up for the Rockies right now. I'm excited to see how the team does. Let me just check the personnel, and we have every spot on the personnel filled out and ready to go. So let's get it going. Let's start the 2022 season. Good vibes all around for the Colorado Rockies. Let's see if we can improve on a rough 2021. All right, it is Thursday, May 5th. This seemed like a good spot to stop your Rockies. 12-13, which is good to see. If we take a look at the schedule, you can see that, so the season started on the 7th. These are spring training games. We can see that the Rockies they lost an entire week's worth of games, which was that was great for me to see. But overall, we started 3-10, but we really picked it up towards the end of the end of the month. So we started 3-10, but then we ended up going, well, that'd be 9-3 afterwards, and we went on a pretty nice winning streak there that started on the 29th of April and went until the 3rd of May. So that was kind of cool. We did just lose to the Cardinals, but we did take 2 out of 3 in that series overall. So 12-13, which is a pretty solid start. We're 10th in runs scored right now, and we the strength, surprisingly, has kind of almost been the pitching to an extent. Dane Dunning, I think, is kind of skewing our rotation ERA a little bit, but McCullers started off pretty well. He did just get rocked. Like you see, he had a 3.18 ERA, but this Cardinals is kind of skewing his ERA a little bit. But still, he's looking pretty good, which is promising. Sonny Gray has had a rough start to the season. It seems like he's kind of starting to get it together a little bit. You can see that his ERA was over 11, and now it's kind of sneaking back down. Hopefully he can get that into like the 4s. I would be happy with. Corbin Burns has been exactly what we've been hoping for, a guy that we can just toss out there every 5th day and be an ace. That is exactly what Corbin Burns has done so far, which is very exciting. I really hope he can keep this up. Yency Almonte even has been pretty surprising out of the 6th spot. He was doing really, really well until he got rocked by the Cardinals. But yeah, so that is that. The bullpen has been pretty good. We have had a couple injuries in the bullpen. Jacob Barnes had radial nerve decompression surgery in his elbow, so he's out for the season, which was unfortunate because he was going to be a big part of our bullpen this year. So we're going to have to try to make do without that. Drew Rasmussen also out for 3 to 4 weeks. He sprained an ankle, so in their spot we called up Raimels Rosa, who has made 4 appearances so far. He has yet to allow a run, which is pretty promising, so he might be in our bullpen long term. We also called up Jacob Kostichak, and he has not done super great, but very, very limited time, so there's still time for him to turn it around. We have not called up Austin Gomber yet. I'm still waiting on that. I might need to if Dane Dunning can't get it together. In fact, you know what? It is the start of May. By this point, I would like to think that I could call Gomber back up. So I think that is exactly what we're going to do. I really don't know if there's a difference between Dane Dunning and Austin Gomber at the end of the day, but we're going to see if there is. So let's call up Austin Gomber. We'll slide him into our starting rotation. So there is a lefty. So we get a lefty in our rotation now. I think if we're going to do anything trade-wise at this point, well, not right now, but just in the foreseeable future, we might have to look for a bullpen piece if Diaz and Kostichak can't get it together. But, I mean, Hicks has looked pretty solid. He got rocked early in the season, but he's kind of been improving a little bit. Oberg is looking solid, as is Topa. Doyle's looking really good. Ben Bowden, he's pitched 10 scoreless innings of relief so far, which is really cool to see. The lineup, surprisingly, it's been the downfall so far. I know Zunino's been dealing with a day-to-day injury, strained rib cage, I could have put him on the IL. I didn't think it was necessary. But still, he has not done very well offensively. But he's still a zero point 0.0 win player, which would indicate to me that he's doing something on the defensive side that's making him worth it. Tapia has had a very good start to the season. Of course, he's never going to hit for much power, but it's, if you're not going to hit for much power, you still have an OPS over 900 or close to 900. You're doing something right. His BABIP is very high, but that's always going to happen with guys that play some of their games in Colorado. So it'll come down, but I don't know how much it'll come down. Tommy Edman has looked very good. Another guy, he's not going to give you much power. He doesn't have any home runs yet. OPS of 759, but the batting average is pretty good. And he's, I'd like to see the on-base percentage get kicked up a little bit more, but overall, I can't be too upset. Colton Welker has probably been the biggest disappointment. He's had a very slow start to the season, which I was not expecting after his really good look in 2021 in 103 games. I mean, he OPS'd at 873 at 128 WRC+. plus. He has not been anywhere near that this year. So I really hope that he can get it together. Gallo, too, has been kind of a surprise. He only has 3 home runs, and we're at May 5th. I kind of expected him to just start railing them off. So this has been a little surprising for me personally that he only has 3 home runs. But, it's a long season. The race for 50 seems like it probably won't happen at this point. I don't think he has the pace for that anymore. But stranger things have happened. Charlie Blackmon, a 720 OPS. As I said, I really don't know what more I can expect from a 35-year-old, but I'm hoping that because he's DHing and not playing the field, maybe he'll do all right. Didi Gregorius has had another, that's the thing. Like, our batters have had slow starts to the season, which I think is the biggest upset. Ryan Valade, another guy, I really would have liked to have seen an OPS better than 759, especially after how good he looked in his short stint last year in 29 games, but of course, the argument is that was a short sample size. So, and Harrison Bader has done not very well offensively. In fact, even worse than last year. But he's still been a positive value player because of the defense. So overall, the way that I'm looking at this team right now is if we can get the offense to be at least like league average, I think we'll be fine. I think the pitching staff will be fine, especially if Gomber can do anything sort of like he was doing a season ago. So that's the idea at this point. And we take a look at the upcoming schedule. There's some winnable games right now. I mean, we have Pittsburgh, Milwaukee that'll be kind of a tougher series. But if we can just take some games here against Pittsburgh, take some games against maybe the Giants, the Phillies. If we could take like 1 from the Dodgers, that would be great. Like 1 or 2 from the Athletics, maybe 1 or 2 from the Brewers. That's the idea. We need to kind of get wins while we can get them, but still a 12-13 start. That's a lot better than we were a season ago, where you see we're only 1.5 out of the NL West right now, which has been very, very competitive. The Diamondbacks and the Dodgers both at 13-11. The Padres at 13-13. Then we're at 12-13. The Giants 8-17. So not a great start for them. We're 1.5 games out in the wild card race too. So I'll simulate up ahead a little more. We'll see where the team's at when I come back. All right, it is Monday, June 6th. Your Colorado Rockies 26-27. So 2 months into the season, we're still playing close to 500 baseball. 4.5 games out in a tough NL West. The Dodgers and the Padres have since jumped the Diamondbacks. And 1.5 games out in the NL wildcard race. I said if the offense could just become league average, I think we'd be fine. And look at what's happened. It hasn't just become league average. We're now 5th in runs scored, 6th in OBP, 7th in OPS. We are 12th in batting WAR, 7th in WOBA. I said that I'm surprised that Joey Gallo had not hit a lot of home runs. Well, he went on a tear, and now he has 14, which is good for an 875 OPS. The pitching staff has been better than I could have expected. In fact, the biggest disappointment, surprisingly, has been Jordan Hicks. But I think these numbers are kind of skewed by a few bad appearances. You can see, like, he let up 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning. That's not going to be good. So I really hope he can get it together. He's been the biggest disappointment in the bullpen, which is not what I expected. I kind of thought that we could rely on him, and unfortunately just hasn't been that way. But the rest of the bullpen has been phenomenal. Scott Oberg, Justin Topa, Tommy Doyle, Jairo Diaz, even Kostichak has turned it around. Raymels Rosa, Ben Bowden, they have all been incredible. I mean, we have the best bullpen ERA right now at 2.99. Which is, I would not have expected that coming into the season. It's been so good that I have Drew Rasmussen in AAA. I don't need him right now. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to get rid of Jordan Hicks, obviously. Like, I can't replace, Hicks with Rasmussen, but, Yeah, that's that. Lance McCullers has done very, very well this season, better than I could have ever expected. He's pitched to a 3.76 ERA and even better 3.26 FIP, 66 strikeouts to 21 walks. Corbin Burns, he's cooled off a little bit since his fast start, but still, when you pitch half of your games in Coors, I'll take a 3.72 ERA. That's exactly what we need. I mean, that was kind of the pace he was at when he was with the Brewers. I said if he could do this, I would be thrilled. And 86 strikeouts to 14 walks, that is just incredible. I'd like to see if he's looking for an extension, and he is. Okay, so this is something, because I think I'm going to stop the episode here. So this is something that we can talk about. Should we extend Corbin Burns? Because this looks like a pretty solid extension. I wouldn't give him 8 years, but I think if we could get him down to like a 5-year deal at maybe like $16-17 million a year, like I'd be okay with that based on what he's done this season. Like I'd be okay with that. Sonny Gray has done a little better recently. He has, his ERA has fluctuated. Like you can see right there, it was at 4.09. Now it's back up to 4.86. It was over 5. His FIP is 4.52. If he can just do something in the low to mid fours, I think I'd be content. And then Yency Almonte, he has he struggled a little bit since his solid start. Austin Gomber, though, surprisingly, hasn't done super bad. His FIP is 6.09, so that's not good. But he is coming back from an injury. That's what I keep telling myself in my head. And also, the other thing I keep telling myself in my head is he probably won't be here in 2023 if he keeps pitching like this. But it seems like we found 2 starting pitchers, which is good. That's more than we had a season ago at this point. Sonny Gray, I think it will also be solid. So once we get to the deadline, I think the priority is going to be finding one starting pitcher and maybe a bullpen piece if one of these guys kind of regresses a little bit. But let me take a look here at I'd like to see who is on the trading block. So if it's just all players. Chris Bassett, I don't really know if that's the kind of move that we'd like to make. I mean, other guys will show up as we get closer to the deadline, but I think that's going to be the point. Maybe like a Zach Eflin could be kind of interesting, a 4.52 ERA, a 4.17 FIP, but we'll see who's on there in July when we start looking at potential trades. But I did say I needed some of these guys offensively to start doing better, and they did just that. Charlie Blackmon has really turned things around. He's second on the team in OPS at 812. Tapia is still doing pretty solid. He's not OPSing close to 900, but still over 800 is something that I'm okay with personally. Colton Welker has turned it around after a very slow start, which is very good to see. But that's really promising. Didi, his OPS is only 760. I'd like to see him maybe hit a few more home runs, especially playing half of his games in Coors. But overall, the turnaround for him has been really promising. Ryan Valade is doing all right. Another guy I'd like to see do just a little better, but he is batting 8th right now. So if OPSing at 758, I'd like to see him do better, but we'll see. Tommy Edman has been, I don't know, he's been what I expected, basically, I'd like to think. And then Leury Garcia, who's gotten some starts, he's OPSing at 606. So I guess I'm glad I only have him on a 1-year deal. Zunino has been just not very good offensively at all. Now he has a negative value, so I don't know how much it is worth it to keep him on the roster. Maybe we try to take a look at trading for a guy like a Christian Vasquez. I saw him on the trading block. I'd like to think that maybe he'd be, even though his OPS is bad too. He's been bad, really bad. I mean, I'd like to see what they'd be looking for just in a trade. Okay, so it wouldn't take a lot. So maybe we'd look to add like a Christian Vasquez. That might be something that we could do because we only have Zunino on a cheap 1-year deal, so we could always just let him go. I wouldn't be against that. And then team chemistry, we are happy. It says the clubhouse is in complete disarray right now. Like, I don't know if that's a bug or something, but like it says the team chemistry is happy. Like everybody's happy. So I can't imagine the clubhouse is actually in a complete disarray. And I don't really think guys are getting into fights. Like everyone's happy. Like we're 26 and 27. Like a lot of these guys weren't here a season ago when it was really bad. But I think this is where I'm going to end the episode. It just seems like a good spot. So your Rockies, 26 and 27. We'll take a look at how we did in May. So we ended up winning 3 out of 4 against the Pirates. We took 1 from the Brewers, 2 from the Athletics. We split with the Astros, won this series against the Phillies, surprisingly split with the Dodgers, and then we followed that up by getting swept by the Giants, which was upsetting. We could have really banked some wins there. We lost both of the games to the Angels, but now we just got revenge against the Giants, and we took 3 out of 4. So now looking ahead to June, we have 3 games against the Cubs, Nationals, Reds, Rangers, Marlins, Dodgers, Padres, and then we have a 4-game set against the Brewers heading into July. But I'm going to stop right here. In the next episode, we will tackle the draft. We will maybe do some deadline stuff. I don't know. But just let me know. I think I want to know, would you do that deal for Corbin Burns? Would you try to extend him right now? Any moves that you guys are trying to make for this team? Because right now we're in the playoff race. I don't think we're going to stay in the playoff race, but still it's kind of promising to at least see we're playing close to 500 this deep into the season. We went 9-12 in April, 14-13 in May, and now 3-2 in June. The offense looks pretty solid. That's kind of gotten turned around a little bit. The pitching has been about as good as you could have hoped for a team playing in Colorado. So a lot of reasons to be optimistic for the future. In the next episode also, I will show how the prospects have been doing. That'll be something that we can do. So with all that said, thank you for watching. Happy opening day, and I'll catch you all again next time.